Good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Kwanele, and this is WellyPodcasts. So today I will be covering men's mental health, how stigma and stereotypes affect men reaching out for treating mental health, and so on and so forth. So let's dive right into it. Mental illness is a condition in which it causes serious disorders in a person's behavior or thinking. So one of the many mental disorders are dementia, derangement, instability, hysteria, schizophrenia, and the list goes on. However, the common mental health conditions in men are depression, anxiety, PTSD, as well as suicide. So what do we know about depression? Depression is a common mental disorder affecting more than 264 million people worldwide. That is incredible, right? Imagine that amount of people experiencing depression. Wow. Okay, it's not that uncommon because everybody has a mental health state. Everybody has mental health. So depression states how low your mood can get and can cause you to not complete your tasks or activities because of how tired or how it affects your thoughts, your behavior, and motivation and sense of well-being, right? And that can be very can be very overwhelming to a person, and they just decide, and it can affect any and everybody, children, teenagers, adults, and it appears, or rather it exhibits itself differently to different people. Okay, so there's anxiety, right? Anxiety is the mind and body's reaction to stressful, dangerous, and unfamiliar situation. It's the sense of uneasiness, distress, dread you feel before a significant event. A certain level of anxiety helps to stay alert in a way. However, it's just a major fear, or rather uneasy feeling that can pose as a danger to some people. And lastly, one of the common men's mental health disorders are suicide. And suicide is the act of intentionally causing one's own death, right? And this can be due to severe major disorders as in depression, major anxiety, and also schizophrenia, autism, bipolar, and so on. As we know that there are various mental health disorders and mental health states. However, it affects people on various levels. So let's tap into why men do not discuss mental health. I'm sure most men are taught that men do not cry, you have to toughen up, or even if they are not taught that, society places certain norms or other cultural norms where man has to be the head of the house. You have to provide for your family. You have to be man enough to do this, to do that, to do that. And that can affect how a person is emotionally, psychologically, mentally. And I myself, when I have certain responsibilities that I'm given, I get overwhelmed. And being that most men are not taught the norm of reaching out, speaking on mental health, it becomes an issue. So hence this podcast. I want any and everybody to feel welcome to speak about whatever they're going through and share their experiences without judgment, without being stereotyped or even stigmatized, which is one of the things we're about to talk about. Let's talk about stigma. Does anybody know what stigma is, or we just have that general understanding of what stigma is? So now let me educate you guys on stigma. So stigma is typically divided into two dimensions, internal and external. So internal stigma is the private feelings of shame and unworthiness that one may feel towards themselves, and external refers to the negative attitudes and prejudicial stereotypes held by people at large, so your society, your community. I'm sure any and everybody who is listening here has experienced some sort of stigma, whether it's sexuality, pursuing a career, the type of school you go to, or even the type of clothes that you wear, or the type of background you come from. And who's to say the people that are stigmatizing you aren't facing their own type of stigma? Let's let go of that. An exploration of rejection and discrimination related to men's mental health is what is needed. It's the 21st century. Internal stigma often leads to social withdrawal and low self-esteem, and external stigma often leads to rejection and subsequent discrimination from people, or rather the community at large, society at large. Majority of men tend to self-stigmatize due to the external stigma and end up with self-destructive behavior, for instance, suicide. So we need to examine the negative attitude and prejudicial stereotypes in society. So my research led me to these 5 stereotypes which stood out, and I want anybody that is listening and everybody that is listening to understand that it is not okay to make someone feel horrible about themselves, less than about themselves or other people. You are all enough. You are made in God's image, so to say. And I do not feel like we are ugly. We are all born beautiful. The world turned us ugly or gave us a perception that we are ugly. Okay, back to the stereotypes. Dealing with stereotypes. Often with men think there are alternatives to stereotypes. There are no alternative to mental health stereotypes. When people think like when they're mad or sad or just feeling uneasy, they go to the gym, which is good, don't get me wrong. However, it boils up to a certain point where you have to let it out. But men don't tend to do that because they feel like what they're doing is enough. That's not enough. That's never going to be enough. You have to reach out and speak about it so that you can learn how to cope and deal with it, aside from just working out or feeding yourself nutritious shakes or whatever that it is. And I'm not generalizing that all men don't speak on mental health. Maybe there are men that speak out, but for those that don't, please reach out to somebody. And do not doubt yourself or feel ashamed. Do not overwhelm yourself. Take it one step at a time when you're adjusting and dealing with your mental health state. Stay in touch with like-minded people. Don't surround yourself with negative people. Don't be around people that will shame or blame you. You understand? And start the conversation. Whether you are at work, you are around people, you are in a taxi, or even if you see somebody going through something, say something. It might make their day. So the stereotypes is men should doubt themselves, overwhelm themselves, and don't speak to people. Just stick to whatever they know. And like I said, do not doubt yourself, do not overwhelm yourself. Stay in touch with like-minded people or family and friends that are supportive, and start the conversation. Be the bigger and omnious person, okay? If you don't want to talk to somebody specifically, you can talk to me. Here's a platform for you. You can share your stories anonymously. You can share your stories with your identity if you want. You're more than welcome. I do not allow people to discriminate, stigmatize, shame and blame anybody on my platform. I do not. Because mental health does not discriminate at all. It does not. Anyone can develop mental health disorders and conditions, but may experience different symptoms. However, men are more likely to commit suicide, as it is more difficult for men to seek help. So 4 times men are more likely to commit suicide. 4 people out of 10 people, men, are likely to commit suicide. And I feel like there are various reasons for that. I'm just gonna touch on the 4 that I have kind of did research on. So which is masculinity, social connectedness, social support, and gender relations. So with masculinity, like I said before, men are taught to be the head of the house, to be the strong pillar of a home, which is okay. However, in doing that, you have to take care of yourself. Prioritize self-care. Prioritize self-love. Both mind, body, and soul. Social connectedness. We share multiple things, various things about ourselves on social media, but we do not talk about our mental health because we know how social media can get at times. It's a very negative but also positive forum for people. It depends on how you use it. So if you want to be social, do your research, join support groups, leading me to my 3rd point, social support. It's important that you get yourself a steady support system. Home, work, school, social media, there are various support groups. And I'm sure most of them on Facebook are private groups. There are private groups you can create. If you don't want to join some, create one, and then invite people that you know are experiencing the same thing. And people will like to join that forum. On Twitter, there are Twitter spaces, so you can host a Twitter space on mental health. Speaking of which, please join my Twitter space the next Sunday. It's very important on men's mental health. Yes. Going back to my last point, gender relations. So we know that mental health, mental wellness is constantly preached on the female aspect, but not on the male aspect. And we are so used to being fed information about mental health on a woman's perspective. It's about time that changes, because men also experience mental health. Men too experience mental health. So, yeah. Conforming to traditional masculinity ideology has been shown to negatively affect and influence mental health. So, we need to stop doing that. Stop attaching masculinity to mental health. Stop using masculinity as a justification to not seek help. Because I believe if you're strong enough to lead people, to lead a household, to be man enough as you were taught. I feel you are capable and strong enough to reach out for help and speak about it. It's gonna take time, yes, but eventually it would get easier. I mean, I've known a couple of friends that have suicidal thoughts and constantly express that, and I've done my best to be like, you know what, it's okay, you can talk to me. If you don't feel comfortable talking to me, talk to somebody. I can refer you to somebody. But it is important that you talk about it. Talk about what is bothering you, what you're bottling up. Because there is a ripple effect, a butterfly effect of suicide. Think about the people that love you, that care for you, your family. It's a very huge impact. It's gonna have a huge impact on people around you that love you. And what tends to happen is, if the children that see, or rather were within the vicinities of somebody who has committed suicide, they're about to develop major depressive disorders of mental health, which can also lead them into committing suicide. And guys, we need to be strong. We need to support each other, hold each other up, love each other. Alright, so right now we are going to discuss the facts of mental health, right? Healthy hormones, eating well, and getting physical activity have positive effects and influence on mental health. Low testosterone contributes to depression, stress, and mood swings. So keep your testosterone high up, guys. Emotional depression is apparent, as well as many men feel cannot express themselves properly. So I'm going to leave on the link the different sources I've used, which are podcasts, TED Talks, as well as journals, to compile my content. You are more than welcome to use these sources to do your own research and start a conversation, Okay, so I want you guys to know the strongest man is one who is healthy, mind, body, and soul. So if you're dealing with mental health, if you're dealing with stigma, stereotypes, and severe major mental health issues, and you have no outlet, here is the platform. And you can join my Twitter space. Follow WellyMedSA on Twitter, and you can join our WellyMed spaces, and we can have a conversation. We can have the tough conversations that you cannot have with the people you want to have them with, probably, but you're more than welcome to discuss any and everything with me. Okay, guys, so that's it for me today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, or I can just set off a like, and follow us on all social media platforms. WellyMadeSA on Instagram, WellyMade on Twitter, WellyMade on Facebook, and we will be creating more support groups. I'm your host, Kwanele. Thank you for listening today. Bye.